And it's so wonderful to be back in Bradford. The last time I was here was 7 years ago, but I think so often of all the amazing experiences that I had here, much like what I think that you're probably having this week and this weekend. I'll start with my story. And in the fall of 2013, I found myself wandering the streets of San Francisco looking for a place to sleep. My mom had passed away. I'd sent in hundreds of applications and couldn't find a job. I lived on bean and cheese burritos from 7-Eleven because aside from maybe the odd Totino's pizza, it was all I could afford to eat. And so I know despair, I know hopelessness, I know fear, and I'm very well acquainted with loneliness. And I know how hard the world can be. Especially after the last 2 years, what we've all been through as a nation, as a people, I know a lot of you can relate. But I also know there's hope. I know the world can be better, and I believe it's in our power to affect positive change. So my stubborn refusal to give up that hope or shake off that belief is why I was wandering the streets of San Francisco that day. Because I was obsessed at the time with doing work and being a part of movements that had an impact. Work that moved resources to people that moved them or need them and created opportunities for everyone to reach their potential. Things that helped me to know that I'd left the world better than I found it. And so to find that, I became obsessed with a very specific set of careers and titles within the space of charity and philanthropy specifically. But as I struggled to find my place in that world, applying to job after job, internship after internship, and dealing repeatedly with really low pay and a lack of advancement opportunities, I looked around and saw that the world was changing around me and around all of us. Because there was a time where it was commonly accepted that the avenue through which you or I could engage and work with a purpose, work that drove positive outcome and impacts, was charity and philanthropy. And that's an incredible space with a lot of nuance. It includes big philanthropic institutions like the Gates Foundation and the Ford Foundation. It includes companies working through their corporate responsibility and grant making and their employee engagement to connect their work and their mission to cause. It includes large nonprofits like Doctors Without Borders to save the children, but also small organizations like a lot of those right here in Bradford that help to feed, clothe, and house our neighbors. But impact and purpose are no longer just the domain of those organizations. As I struggle to find my place in the world that I now call inclusively the space of social impact, I realized that that world was expanding and it was bigger than I'd ever imagined it could be. So I wanted to map it. I mapped the locations, the people, the causes, the technologies, the companies, the publications and institutions that I encountered in my career. And that exercise fundamentally altered the nature of everything that I wanted to do, my ambitions. I discovered corporate responsibility. I discovered technologies that made it easier than ever before for people to give and volunteer and connect to causes. I discovered scientists and support teams working to build innovations that tackled issues like climate change and diversity, equity, inclusion. I found whole communities of social entrepreneurs looking to build products and business models that didn't just drive revenue, they drove positive social change. And I discovered impact investors who were driving capital to all these different stakeholders to power their mission. And so for me, there were whole worlds that moved me and got me really excited. And knowing my why, that I desired to be part of moving resources to people who needed them and creating new opportunities, I saw as my map became more complete that it contained wonder and places full of work with purpose that went so far beyond the limited set of options I gave myself when I was where you are and I started my journey. And the conclusion I reached is something that more and more people in society are coming to see. And that's why we're here today. Social entrepreneurism, its products, its ethos, its operations with a thought to impact and societal consequences at the core can change how our economies work. And I think that in making that change, there's more potential to change the world than any other vehicle at play. And so today I work in a product strategy role within Salesforce. I'm an industry solutions director, and I get to talk to major brands like McDonald's, SoFi, Kellogg, and others to learn how they're engaging in their corporate responsibility and sustainability. I take what I learn and use it as subject matter expertise to drive sales and go to market, sit on webinars, to help input on product and roadmap and prioritization, and to think about how all Salesforce technologies can help these customers do their jobs and drive impact from within their companies. Before that, as a product manager, I helped to conceptualize, design, and launch several technology solutions. that acted as social enterprises, helping to generate revenue and impact within the broader Salesforce ecosystem. The first of those was Philanthropy Cloud. With Philanthropy Cloud, we really wanted to build the Spotify or Netflix for social good. Just as those platforms make it easy to engage with these massive collections of music and movies, we created a massive collection of opportunities to give back, to volunteer, donate, to read and learn about causes in your community. And like those platforms, we built an AI layer that allowed us to understand how our users wanted to give back, what skills they wanted to build as volunteers, what cause areas they were most passionate about, whether it was sustainability or the arts, so that the platform could then make smart recommendations to users. And so the product gets sold into companies like 3M, Deloitte, or Boston Consulting Group as a tool to help them engage their employees. And it was our vision to drive impact by making it as easy and as fun to engage with causes and find a place to give back as it is to find some songs on Spotify or a movie on Netflix. I then worked to help build SalesforceWork.com, which is Salesforce's COVID response, helping states and companies to make decisions around reopening using and employee well-being based on the COVID data. I then worked with the Combs Enterprises teams and Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P Diddy, whatever he's called these days, to help build what's called the Shop Circulate platform now that seeks to support entrepreneurs of color by creating a digital Main Street so that consumers can engage and connect with their brands, helping them to grow as entrepreneurs and businesses, creating more opportunities for communities of color in the cities where the app is active. I'm also an angel, an entrepreneur. The first company that I co-founded was called Go Artful, and we wanted to build the Rent the Runway for art to help local art from local artists connected to local causes get into local offices. My first angel investment made me part owner of a bar in DC called Metro Bar. The company is called Entertainment in Transit, and they've built a bar out of literal Metro cars and hope to use it as a center of sustainability and community efforts. I invested in a company called Humanitas.ai. I share all of this as examples because the truth of the world that we live in today is that philanthropy belongs to everyone and impact can happen anywhere. To my mind, what's going to help you find your way in that ecosystem as a social entrepreneur and change maker is for you to be very clear about what's your why, what's your mission, what impact do you want to have. Using myself as an example, early in my career, I was obsessed with a particular path, particular set of job titles and careers in philanthropy and charity. And unable to find my path, I had to ask myself some key questions. What did I like about the work? What did I hate about it? What do I want to be remembered for? I used my answers to create a mission and vision for myself and the work I wanted to do and the impact I wanted to have on the world. And for me, that mission was moving resources to people who need them. And that's become my mission statement. And having that mission statement has allowed me to see that I can create that kind of change, the change I want to help drive in a variety of different ways from a variety of different roles. It unlocked my ability to innovate around my own ambitions. And so what I'd like to do today is have a conversation with you, answer some questions, and help you think about your why. What's your motivation for wanting to be a social entrepreneur, for wanting to be a part of that space? And this is really important because passion is so key to social entrepreneurism. It's important that it comes through when you're talking to your team, your customers, and potential partners. It's going to be vital when you're talking to potential investors. And most important of all, social entrepreneurism is hard. It's hard as hell. And so being able to bring your passion and commitment to purpose into your work every day is going to drive your success, help you build your reputation, and it's going to sustain your well-being as you engage in that hard work. So that's what I'd like to do today, if that sounds good. Awesome. So let me see if I can work through these tech issues here, but I've got an exercise. And if you can all turn to page 197, it should be bookmarked within the book. We're going to be a little environmentally friendly. I was going to print out pages, but I said, hey, I work in sustainability. Let me think a little bit more deeply about my actions. And so this is an example of the exercise that I went through, and the exercise that changed my life and gave me a lot of hope when I needed it. And so here's an example that you see on your screen. This is an anonymous individual that I worked with on this exercise. When we began this process, she worked within a foundation. She was a program officer, helping to decide where grants went in Washington, D.C. to some of the largest arts and cultural institutions in the world, like the Kennedy Center and others. She had dipped her toes into social entrepreneurism and started a social enterprise. And it ignited a whole new world within her, much like many of you, I'm sure. And so she was no longer happy in a role in traditional philanthropy. And so what I did was what I often do, which is try to go back and ask some fundamental questions to help her figure out what she liked about work in philanthropy as a program officer, what she didn't like about it, how she wanted to be remembered, what impact she wanted her work to have, so that she could kind of get to the core of what it is that she wanted to do. And today, we did this exercise about a year and a half ago, and today she leads a program within an organization called WACIF, the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, where she works with entrepreneuring women of color throughout the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, to help them build their businesses, learn skills, and do everything from training programs to providing funding, loan funds, it's a community investment fund, and more. And all of that came out of being able to take a step back and say, I don't necessarily need to have the impact I want to have in the way that I always thought about it. I can have that impact in another space. And so that's the goal of this. So I'll kind of walk you through some of what she thought, and you'll find these same questions in the book. So the first question that you have to ponder is, what do you love and why? Why do you love it? So here she says, and this process requires a lot of honesty. If you like being on stage and having people recognize your work, you have to be honest and say, that's one of the things that provides me with some fulfillment. It needs to be a part of the way I run my company if I'm starting a business. It needs to be a part of how I operate as an individual. So you have to be very honest about what it is you like and find joy in with the work that you hope to engage in. And so here she says, I love the idea of creating spaces, programs, or circumstances where people feel happy and fulfilled in their lives. She references a specific project. I want to contribute to the sense of freedom that people feel to realize their own potential, their own path, and their own well-being, and innovate or take risk in whatever way that translates for them. I'm grateful for the freedom I have had to pursue my own path, and I think it's critical that we create that space for people to truly have a healthy, well-functioning society. It's also instrumental for ensuring prosperity. The arts have been a huge part of how I've plugged into that feeling, since they make us feel like our lives are more expansive, more open, bigger than what we see daily. Entrepreneurship, she had realized, does the same. I want people to have an elevated sense of what's possible for them and for those around them. And here I've highlighted where you begin to see, as you go through this exercise, some things here that you'll see in the yellow section, specifically in bold. Because she had to go deeper. She loves the art. But why art? And she says, well, it's beautiful things. It is. But it also makes everything feel possible, makes people feel like they can do anything. When I spoke to her, I said, well, that's innovation, right? You love innovation. And she said, minds open to art and creativity doesn't go away. Like work that it takes to put something beautiful on stage, it's tangible. It's hard work with a payoff. So you produce a tangible product in the arts, and that's one of the things that had always attracted her to it. For the world, opening up access is very interesting. People don't connect what they do to art, feel that connection, and quality of life becomes better for those who consume the product. The world would be more open-minded if everyone valued art the way I do. People would feel better about themselves, the world, and future possibilities. And again, I'm hearing a lot here connected to innovation. Kind of what are the core principles? So when she thinks about what she enjoys doing, she enjoys seeing a problem, a possibility, a project, and thinking. She likes program leadership, project and program leadership, about taking things from inception to completion with a project plan, resources, partners. It's interesting, it makes her feel engaged, and creating relationships is a natural byproduct that she enjoys. And what do you hate about it? Well, she hates finance. She actually had her bachelor's was in accounting. So she had worked at a Big 5 firm and had decided that was not the world for her. And so she, doesn't like the pressure, especially the pressure of meeting goals or sales goals or objectives. She's not good at that kind of pressure. And what's her ideal role? It's a role where she's taking in the needs or priorities and ideas of different people, departments, projects, and other stakeholders, identifying how it can all work together. She runs internal projects in this ideal role with a current org to study past, in her current role, in this role, to study past giving and try to alter the course of business. And again, all of these come back to some key words and concepts like project and program leadership. And then the most important question to me that I ask is, you're dying. You have to kind of project forward when you want to think about your impact. And all of this should be fluid. This is a living set of thoughts, a living document that you can evolve as you evolve. But for her at this time, when she thinks about how she wants to be remembered, she says, I made life better for those in my community. That's why I was initially drawn to philanthropy. I made a mark, and she had to recognize, I'm recognized by people for what I have done, especially in my field. And she said, I said, ask yourself why. Keep asking why. Because it's cool, she said. What's the point of spending so much time working if no one cares, remembers, or values what you did? She has to make a difference. And so she engaged in this exercise, and the end result was crafting a mission statement. And so she took key words from her thoughts and kind of key principles related to how we do work, like innovation, program leadership, program management, project leadership, product management. And she boiled it down to a mission statement. And for her, that mission statement was, I do innovative work to support projects and programs that create tangible products and experiences that expand minds and possibilities. That's kind of core to her thinking, to the arts, right? For a broad and diverse set of stakeholders. And you can see with this mission statement, that's exactly what she's now doing. She's no longer in the arts, which has been a passion for her whole life, but she got to the core of why she loved art, because it connects people. It allows us to innovate. It allows us to see possibilities that we didn't see before. And so now she works to do that with entrepreneurs, and she creates tangible product, meaning sessions that train them. She's able to track how their sales can grow or fall based on how her program has helped to empower the women that she works with. A mission statement can be just as powerful for you as it is for the biggest business on the planet. And so what I'd like to do, and I'll leave this up here as an example, is I know you've all found teams, so I'd love to take 5 minutes and kind of split up and try to engage in this exercise. Feel free to write in the book and just ask these questions of yourself. We're not going to complete this exercise in 20 minutes, in 10 minutes, but just give it a try. And then I want to come together for another 5 minutes as a group, and you can all talk about what you've written. And then we'll come back after that 10 minutes and have a discussion. And then I want to be here to answer your questions as well if you have any of me. Does that sound good? Awesome.